Fellas, great to see you, obviously, and this should be a good time. Our little NHL morning skate here at DFS look at tonight's 8-gamer, where Connor McDavid, we alluded to it earlier, is not even the most expensive play available to the people this evening. Let's begin at center, though, and Pete, let's start with you. Starting at that center position again, Connor McDavid is he's not cheap by any means, but he is not the guy that you have to go way up for, obviously. That is the Panthers' Alexander Barkov, who comes in at $9,000 tonight. Do you like either of these guys, or are you paying down?
I totally understand anyone who wants to spend up for those type of guys, but my strategy here in my mock lineup is to spend down a little bit at center from the Florida Panthers, one of the best teams in the league. They face the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm rolling out Sam Bennett. The guy is an absolute stud. Ever since he was traded from the Calgary Flames, he scored 40 points in 42 games since that trade last year, has been a total breakout player. Whether he's playing with his usual line mate, Jonathan Huberdeau, who's tied for the NHL lead in scoring, or even if he's on the second line with like a Sam Reinhart or a Carter Verhaeghe, he's in a great spot. I love the price point, $6,100. And the Winnipeg Jets have failed to live up to expectations this year, fantasy and reality. I think we could all agree on that. They're 0-2-2 in their past 4, and I like Sam Bennett and the Panthers to pounce on them here.
What do you think, AJ? Is there an ideal spot, an ideal pivot off of those top two guys like McDavid? Maybe you want to go to his teammate, Leon Draisaitl at center. Who stands out to you?
Guys, this has been absolutely the easiest segment I've ever had to prepare for, because clearly Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin are the guys to use tonight. I mean, look, you're talking about a matchup with the wayward Coyotes, who are second in the league in goals allowed at 3.7, and second worst in penalty kill in the league at just 72.8%. So if you can make it work, which I figured out how to do it, you stack Crosby and Malkin, both at the center position. Yeah, they're going to cost you a lot, but you're getting the two best players on the ice. You're getting two parts of what should be just an outstanding power play in this terrific matchup. I don't know why you would look anywhere else. If you're picking between the two, go with Malkin because he's cheaper. He's still only coming in at $6,600, but absolutely both these guys are in play.
See, if I know Paul the way that I know Paul, I feel like he's going to just ignore everybody and say, you know what, Jean-Gabriel Pageau tonight coming. I mean, what a spot.
Adam, I love it when AJ uses his pillowcase for his notes, and this was no exception today. That was beautiful. And I'm going to say I'm on the same two guys, but Bennett is a compelling case. I'll give you two more guys to think about. They're playing against each other in the Devils matchup with Dallas. Rupe Hintz, 12 points his last 10 games played, $6,900 the price tag. The guy's on fire. His line mates are right there along with him, one of the hottest lines in the league right now. And Jack Hughes has come up with 15 points in his last 10 games, almost the most productive player at this position over the last 10 outings, and $7,400 is his price tag. So you pick the winning team here, and I think you're going to do well in the totals for the center position. I'm going to say Rupe Hintz is my pick.
Let's stay with you here, Pablo. At wing, you know, it's a little less top heavy, you might say, compared to the guys at the center position we were just talking about. You know, you have the potential return of Max Pacioretty for Vegas, something to think about, obviously looming. He is the most expensive wing on the slate, $8,200. Do you want to do it, though, knowing that he is expected back, or, again, look elsewhere?
I'm looking at Jonathan Huberdeau, the hottest stick on the ice tonight of any player, any team. 17 points in his last 10 games alongside Bennett. That's a line stack waiting to happen for me, I think. One of the two options that I'd be looking at in that regard. I'll touch on the other one later. $8,100 is his price tag. Kyle Connor's on fire with Winnipeg, having a great season. $7,900 his price tag. He's playing against Florida, so his ownership will be low, but he's one of the better shooters in the league and could rise up and bite them tonight. Brady Tkachuk in a game against Buffalo, should be excited about the possibilities for him, and their shaky goaltending on the other end of the ice. He only got 5 points in his last 10 games, but I like the fact he's pouring a lot of shots on goal and he's blocking a lot as well, so his point total should be high on the DK scoring this evening. And Drake Batherson, his line mate, another compelling case if you want to stack Ottawa tonight too. But going back to the Dallas stack that I really like, Jason Robertson, $6,600 against New Jersey tonight, 16 points in his last 10 games, along with 34 shots on goal. There's a mitt full of information there. I like Robertson the best of the pack.
AJ, anything on the other side of that pillowcase?
Well, I mean, Paul used up all the time, so I'll just say Jake Guentzel and move on here, right? Like 7,500 13 points in his last 11 games, on set for career highs in both goals and points this season. But if you're sick of my Penguins takes and there's more to come, maybe Matt Duchene at 5,700 going up against Seattle. It's a decent matchup for the Predators here. He's coming off a big game, can be a bit of a streaky player. So maybe, you're expecting a bit of a drop, but I think he can carry on a few more games before we see that signature dip from him.
Pete, I tell you, you're going to have to be the adult in the room with these two just bickering. You're going to be the center. They're the wings. You tell me who stands out.
So I agree with Paul for sure about the Dallas line. I have Jason Robertson in my mock lineup. He's been near a point per game in his NHL career through his first 2 seasons, and he's been outstanding lately. Like he mentioned, 18 points in his past 12 games. So, definitely get Robertson into your lineup. Couple other injury notes that I wanted to mention. Ryan Nugent Hopkins could come back for the Oilers. The Oilers are starting to bounce back from that really bad losing streak that they had, and their offensive guys could get going. So keep an eye on Nugent Hopkins. And then also wanted to mention Blake Wheeler came back over the weekend, had a multi-point game recently. So, and with all of Winnipeg's injuries and missing guys throughout the season, Nikolai Ehlers was moved to IR. So right now, safe to say Blake Wheeler is going to have great lineup placement. I know it's a tough matchup against Florida, but these are some injury trends between Nugent Hopkins and Blake Wheeler that you should take notice of in all fantasy formats.
All right, let's go to defense and stay with the man with the NHL crest behind him here. And obviously at the top, Roman Josi. He's a guy that we could talk about all the time. He's obviously very expensive. He's very good. You got to pay up, though, for the privilege. Behind him, you have the likes of Pietrangelo. You have Ekblad. You've got Letang as well. Who stands out?
I mean, the Panthers guys are always safe bets for DFS, no question about it. I like, in terms of value, what guys like Rasmus Daleen bring to the table, especially with Buffalo's power play being borderline top 10 in the NHL since January 1st. So he brings all that exposure to Alex Tuck, and he brings it to Tage Thompson and Jeff Skinner, who's having a bounce back season. So if you can't fit those guys into your price point and you just want to spend up a little bit on defense, Rasmus Daleen and the Sabres had a nice game last week against Ottawa. So look for them to maybe keep the good times rolling. They also had a big victory over the weekend against the Flyers. So those are some names I'm keeping an eye out for. And I just think Buffalo, since moving on from the Eichel trade and getting some of these bodies back, now they're also going to get Casey Middlestad back. They have a nice little top 6 right now. And I think the biggest beneficiary is Rasmus Daleen.
AJ, which direction are you rolling?
Yeah, I'm definitely with Pete here on Rasmus Daleen at 5,700. He's running that first power play for the Sabres here. And they should, as Pete mentioned, get an offensive boost by having Casey Middlestad return to the lineup tonight. But of course, the answer here is Chris Letang at 7,400. He was on a 10-game point streak before Sunday's matchup in Winnipeg. I wouldn't expect him to slump very long here. And then you're feasibly getting, look, I've talked about Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, and Letang. That's 4 parts of a 5-man power play unit that, like I said, should just absolutely dominate the Coyotes tonight. It's a one-team stack for me tonight, but it'll pay off if they do what they're supposed to, which is dominate the Arizona Coyotes.
Paul, we didn't see it, but we heard the chuckles.
If Arizona wins this game, my Twitter's going to be really busy tonight. I'll just say that. But I will say Mike Matheson of the Penguins is a guy that we haven't named yet among the Penguins players that AJ's considering. He's the cheapest one. $3,400 is his price tag. He's got 6 points and 11 shots on goal, as well as a number of blocks in his last 4 games. So he's chipping in as well. It could be a real sneaky good value play on DFS. But I'm going to the Carolina defense for a pair of guys here that are also in the low end of the board. I'll be needing the low end because I'm going to be stacking some expensive guys up front. Brady Shea, 10 points in his last 10 games played, re-emerging as a consistent contributor in the Carolina mix. Only $3,800, but Jacob Slavin might be the best value play among choices here. Chipping in offensively with 7 points in his last 10 games played, adding 23 blocks. That's for an average of almost 12 DK points per game in his last 10. That's outstanding value for his low price tag of $4,300 tonight.
Well, let's keep going with value, and we need to be quick here with this last one for you guys. But one great value that stands out to you here, Paul.
I'm going to go with Jeff Skinner. He's scoring at a rate that's almost reminiscent of the totals that earned him his current bloated contract that AJ and I have really maligned over the last couple of years as the worst value in the last 2 seasons among salary cap issues. And he scored 7 goals along with 3 helpers and 30 shots on goal in his last 10 games played. I think he's the best value play on the board tonight.
AJ?
I'll go with 2 players that Pete mentioned. I think they're great takes. Casey Middlestat returning to the lineup, 2,500. Huge steal for a guy that's probably going to get second line center role. And then Ryan Nugent Hopkins at 4,500 comes in, probably going to be on the third line, but should get power play minutes with the 2 top guns there in Edmonton. I think both these guys are great plays coming off of injury.
What do you say, Pete?
Definitely on board with that price for Nugent Hopkins. That's too good to pass up right now. And then, yeah, for in general, I think Quinn Hughes, his price, I know that Vancouver's missing some guys, but 5,100 for an elite defenseman like that certainly stands out as a value pick for me in a rivalry game. And Edmonton's run and gun, so Quinn Hughes will try to keep track of them defensively and also move and push the pace forward. So, yeah, Quinn Hughes is a no-brainer for me at 5,100. And I also like Brady Shea with 10 points in his past 10 games for the Hurricanes, like Paul said.